Have you ever been so sure about a relationship that you thought nothing could disrupt it, only to find yourself proven wrong by the unpredictabilities of life? It's a perplexing turn of events that can shake even the sturdiest hearts. Imagine, then, standing at the crossroads of love and uncertainty when the love of your life suddenly requests a break, not just a hiatus, but a pause imposed by the appearance of a new rival. That's precisely where I found myself when Emma, my fiancée, decided she needed space to explore a friendship with someone else. I'm 34 years old, settled in my career, and met Emma, a bright and irresistibly charming 29-year-old, at the place where love and ambition often cross paths, work. In the balmy days of mid-2022, sparks flew almost effortlessly between us. It wasn't long before we embarked on a relationship filled with laughter, shared dreams, and the kind of connection that makes the mundane feel magical. But that magic had a premature expiration date. From the very beginning, Emma and I shared an uncanny chemistry, as if the universe itself conspired to intertwine our lives. Those were days of serendipitous coffee dates and weekend escapades, and life felt like an endless romance novel. Our colleagues often commented on how perfect we were for each other, only making our impending fate feel more tragic. However, just as everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place, an unforeseen twist emerged, as they do in all compelling narratives. Emma abruptly ended things, attributing her decision to needing time away due to a new friend she met outside of work. Her words were like shards of glass through my heart, unexpected and painfully piercing. Confused and heartbroken, I made the difficult decision to leave my city and seek solace elsewhere, hoping distance would mend what was shattered. Moving cities was no small feat, it was an attempt at self-preservation. I packed my life into boxes, bid farewell to familiar streets, and ventured into the unknown, thirsty for a fresh start. As I endeavored to rebuild my life elsewhere, the shadows of the past found ways to sneak back into my present. Emma, to my astonishment, began acting in ways I'd never imagined. Unsettling reports from mutual friends painted a picture of her trying to maintain a sense of connection or, perhaps, control. It seemed she regularly checked on my social media profiles and sometimes appeared unexpectedly in places she'd never visited before, acquaintances noted. Her parents reached out to me, extending apologies laced with concern, suggesting that we talk things through. Still, I found myself too entangled in the whirlwind of what had become a peculiar cat-and-mouse game of emotions and choices. Did I owe Emma a conversation, or did I owe myself the peace of moving on without looking back? It's a question that hovered over each decision I made. Revisiting these memories now, I grapple with the enigma of whether my actions are justified defense of my well-being or unnecessarily cruel to Emma, who once meant the world to me. As our story unfolds, it becomes clear that love, in all its forms, is more complex than the words we use to explain it. In the autumn haze of 2022, I stumbled into the warmth of Emma's smile. We were both attendees at a conference hosted by our company, which was held in a picturesque, forested retreat an hour outside the city. Her laughter was contagious, and soon I found myself gravitating towards her at every opportunity. Our schedules intertwined effortlessly, and by the end of the weekend, we knew we had something worth exploring. Emma, with her curious spirit and infectious energy, and I, with my analytical yet adventurous soul, created a balance neither of us had experienced before. Our bond was instant and profound, but it didn't come without its storms. In early December, like a gust of wind altering a ship's course, an unexpected wedge was driven between us. Emma wanted a pause in our whirlwind romance, influenced by an emerging connection with someone new at her gym, a newcomer named Alex. Dumbfounded by her revelation, I suggested we both take space to untangle our emotions. The following day, with heavy hearts, we parted ways to rediscover our paths. I decided to leave my life in capital city behind, venturing to Cascade Valley, a city bustling with local culture nestled between misty hills. I took up a new role as a marketing strategist, eager to pour my heart into a fresh start. For a while, my surroundings and job filled the hours and dulled the ache in my chest. I immersed myself in my work, attempting to keep any thought of Emma at bay. But time often clouds emotions, leading people towards unforeseen circumstances. To my astonishment, a few months later Emma was frequently appearing in my digital periphery. She sent sporadic messages and liked online posts, tracking the breadcrumbs of my new life despite my silence. Puzzled by her persistence, I decided to avoid responding immediately. Perhaps curiosity had her revisiting our once vibrant connection, or guilt tugged her back. Her parents, whom I had gotten to know during our courtship, surprisingly reached out as well, expressing their apologies and assuring me of their support, whatever my decision regarding their daughter might be. While appreciative, I wasn't ready to face the mosaic of emotions this stirred within me. Meanwhile, in my new city, I began cultivating friendships and hobbies that I had never considered before. I joined a local hiking group, trekked through the whispering pines of Mount Everdrift, and even rekindled my old passion for painting. Despite this growth, an emotional dissonance lingered, a nagging question of whether closing the chapter with Emma was the right course. Spring arrived, and with it, more messages from her. Each notification was a strike at the wall I had painstakingly erected around my heart. As the trees outside my window bloomed, each petal bore a resemblance to unresolved memories of us. Eventually, her persistence nudged me towards introspection, assessing if it was possible to forgive without opening old wounds. In these moments of reflection and solitude, I found strength and clarity but questioned if reconciliation would grant closure or further complexity. Friends encouraged me to consider my boundaries, urging me to weigh what would bring true peace, dialogue or distance. Emma's revelation had shattered a part of me, an act my heart was still mending from, but questions still loomed. Was I right to maintain this silence? Could understanding pave the path toward peace? As May's sun shone brightly over Cascade Valley, I knew decisions would soon be made. With Emma's presence palpably filling the air, I was driven to confront my truths. What did the future hold for me? Would a final conversation bring solace, or would closing the door once more lead to lasting peace? In the whirlwind that was my relationship with Maya, our beginnings were defined by serendipity. Our paths crossed in the most unexpected of ways at an office team-building event in the midst of summer 2022. There was an undeniable spark. Her laughter seemed to weave its way into my soul, creating a connection I hadn't anticipated. For the first few months, we built a world of dreams around each other, with endless conversations that blended seamlessly into the night and adventures to places we deemed ours, treasured with our shared laughter and stolen moments. However, the landscape of our love began to shift when Maya mentioned needing a break. At first, I assumed it was the usual discourse born out of work pressures or some existential exploration. Yet, the revelation that this break was influenced by her growing interest in someone else, someone who had caught her attention like a fresh autumn breeze, hit me like a tempest. As someone past his early 30s, the realization was both humbling and devastating. Faced with this unforeseen chaos, I decided to take control of my narrative. I packed up the fragments of my heart, wrote my farewell not only to Maya but to the life we'd started crafting together, and moved cities. The process was cathartic, a chance to not only redefine who I was but to cleanse the chapters that now needed to be rewritten. Emotional upheaval turned into an opportunity for self-reflection and the pursuit of new endeavors. I sought to dive into new experiences that expanded my horizons and introduced me to new people and places. Yet, as months drifted by, just as I began feeling settled into my new ecosystem, the past, which I thought I had distanced myself from, came crashing through. Strange calls from blocked numbers and anonymous letters found their way into my usually uneventful routine. It didn't take much to deduce that Maya had surged back into my life's periphery. It seemed she was waging a silent campaign to reignite a connection that I had already mourned and laid to rest. Her parents, filled with regret over the tumultuous events, reached out, embodying apologies I neither sought nor expected. Yet, my resolve was steadfast. I would not communicate with Maya. It was not out of spite, but rather out of a profound understanding that some stories are meant to reach their natural end. Boundaries, once necessary, were now non-negotiable. I respected myself enough to recognize that reopening old wounds would do nothing but breathe life into scars I worked hard to heal. Still, in quiet moments, I wrestled with the nagging question: am I wrong for cutting ties so definitively? Society often romanticizes grand gestures of reconciliation and forgiveness, but the shredding of once strong emotional connections doesn't always call for mending. Sometimes, Preserving the peace of mind and sanctity of one's own emotional fulfillment is a necessity. As the adage goes, self-care is not selfish. In the unfolding drama that painted the canvas of my relationship with Maya, I learned the crucial distinction between loneliness and solitude. The solitude I embraced led me to intriguing musings on personal growth and resilience. It was in those reflective interludes I discovered the resilience to redefine my existence, unfettered by the losses that once overshadowed my horizon. Rather than a return to a past love, I saw the situation as a testament to the transformative journey I had embarked upon, a testament to strength and the fortitude of the human spirit in the face of emotional upheaval and heartache. Ultimately, the resolution not to engage further with Maya emerged as an act of respect for the new life I was cultivating, one that was flourishing without the encumbrance of unresolved histories. In adhering to my boundaries, I am not diminishing the role Maya once played, nor am I nullifying the transcendent experiences we once shared. Instead, I am acknowledging growth and the maturity that comes from understanding when to hold and when to fold. This revelation, a symphony of self-awareness, was the healing balm I needed, and in part, the journey of heartbeats, tear-soaked nights, and eventual clarity paved the path to my personal renaissance.
Título: Distância permeada por ilusões. Enquanto as memórias de todos os eventos recentes giravam em torno da mente de Jonathan, ele tentava encontrar clareza em meio ao caos. A relação com Mia começou de forma inesperada e intensa, e seu término desestabilizou. Em 2022, quando ainda trabalhavam juntos, a conexão entre eles foi instantânea, e parecia que nada poderia abalar o vínculo que estavam formando. Jonathan e Mia estavam navegando por mares calmos, até que algo surgiu para desestabilizar tudo, trazendo incertezas e preocupações para o horizonte. A decisão de Mia de pedir um tempo foi dolorosa e confusa para Jonathan. Tudo desmoronou devido à presença de um novo colega em sua vida. Com o coração pesado e um futuro incerto, Jonathan decidiu que o melhor curso de ação era seguir em frente. Ele mudou-se de cidade, esperando deixar para trás não apenas um relacionamento rompido, mas também a dor associada a ele. No entanto, a situação tomou um rumo inesperado. Desde o dia em que Jonathan se afastou, Mia não parou de tentar restabelecer contato. Ela o seguiu virtualmente, deixando rastros de sua presença por onde Jonathan passava online. Suas mensagens e tentativas de retomar o contato eram persistentes, e a persistência logo se transformou em uma sombra que ele não conseguia se desvencilhar. Os pais de Mia, em uma tentativa de amenizar o que parecia uma situação insustentável, procuraram Jonathan, pedindo desculpas pela insistência da filha, mas isso não aliviava o que ele sentia. Jonathan, ao relembrar o motivo pelo qual decidiu cortar o contato, refletia sobre sua decisão com um misto de emoções. Ele tinha 34 anos agora e sentia-se em um momento de sua vida onde precisava de estabilidade e segurança emocional, algo que, diante dos eventos recentes, Mia parecia incapaz de oferecer. O passado, no entanto, não era algo que se deixava para trás com facilidade. Era um viajante persistente, sempre presente em seus pensamentos. Ele se perguntava, por vezes, se estava errado ao cortar Mia de sua vida de maneira tão incisiva, mas cada tentativa dela de reaproximação revivia as dúvidas e incertezas que ele buscava deixar para trás. Mia, por outro lado, não entendia o porquê da resistência de Jonathan. Para ela, esse tempo separados deveria ser uma oportunidade para ambos refletirem sobre seus sentimentos. Contudo, quanto mais ela tentava uma reaproximação, mais Jonathan se afastava. O desencontro de expectativas gerava um ciclo de frustrações e arrependimentos, que apenas se intensificavam à medida que o tempo passava. Os dias avançavam, mas a guerra interna entre razão e emoção que Jonathan vivia estava longe de uma conclusão. Ele desejava encontrar paz, mas cada mensagem não lida e cada ligação perdida eram lembretes silenciosos de que esse processo estava longe de ser fácil. Decidido a se concentrar em sua nova vida, ele sabia que precisava encontrar uma forma de lidar com aquilo. Optar pelo silêncio era, para Jonathan, a única forma de seguir em frente, ainda que essa decisão trouxesse consigo o peso da dúvida. Contudo, no fundo, Jonathan sabia que deveria haver um ponto final, não apenas uma pausa prolongada, nesse capítulo da sua história com Mia. O confronto final entre o que fora e o que poderia ter sido era inevitável, e a cada dia, esse encontro parecia se aproximar. Talvez, apenas talvez, a serenidade que ele tanto buscava não viesse do afastamento, mas sim de um confronto honesto com as emoções que ainda o atormentavam. Com a chegada iminente de um novo ano, Jonathan estava determinado a deixar para trás as sombras do passado e criar, finalmente, um futuro iluminado por decisões tomadas com o coração em sintonia com a razão.
Unfortunately, I can't generate a long text on a single try. However, I can continue the storyline from where it left off and aim for intriguing developments around the specified thematic element. Here's the next part. As autumn leaves began to fall in late 2022, I found myself packing boxes and preparing to embark on a fresh chapter in a new city. My whirlwind romance with Emily had been intense, yet the sudden appearance of another man in her life had shattered my dreams. I thought distance would provide the solace I yearned for, but I was mistaken. Settling into my new life, I started to regain a sense of normalcy. I had found a decent job and the local coffee shop became my daily refuge, providing both caffeine and fleeting social interactions. But amidst these small comforts, Emily's shadow lingered. Her text messages, initially sporadic, transformed into relentless attempts to reach out, apologies, promises, and pleas all arriving in a digital stream I chose to ignore. Despite blocking her number, Emily's persistent pursuit found new channels. Mutual acquaintances started reporting chance encounters with Emily, who consistently inquired about me with a haunting eagerness. Knowing very well the tangled past we shared, it was clear she had regrets. Yet, my trust was a fragile, shattered thing, not easily repaired. Her parents had reached out to me, humbly extending their apologies for her lapses in judgment and promising she was working on making amends. They were sincere, a kind couple who had always supported Emily through thick and thin. But their words fell on deaf ears. My heart, embittered by betrayal, refused their olive branch. Now at 34, faced with the possibility that I might be withholding closure both for her and myself, doubts began to creep in. Was it unreasonable to deny her a conversation? To exist without the possibility of recovering from the hurt? I caught myself questioning my decision sometimes, but the thought of returning to emotional turmoil held me back. While Sarah, now Emily, lingered in the background, my attention shifted to new horizons. The vibrant city offered a plethora of distractions: art exhibits, open MIC nights, and the diverse, enigmatic strangers I encountered briefly each day. Yet, in every painting, song, or conversation lingered a kernel of reflection, drawing me back to my entangled predicament. In my solitary evenings, between sips of herbal tea, I often found myself haunted by a question: should I forgive? It was the fourth element of my turmoil, the persistent nudge that whispered of empathy and humanity in the face of hurt. But even as I considered this, I knew the decision rested on whether I had truly moved past the scars of our shared history, or whether they would reopen with the merest acknowledgement. Amidst these ruminations, Emily's presence seemed to gradually wane, or perhaps I trained my senses to better drown out her attempts to reach me. Either way, the distance brought a peaceful acceptance. It seemed the city had indeed cast its spell over me, a gentle, healing magic. Yet, the true question lingered unresolved, unanswered. Even when I'd found new friendships, dabbled in romance, or lost myself in the music of the evening breeze, a small corner of my heart seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the decisive moment. Would I find closure in confrontation, or had silence woven its own form of peace for me? As the months unfurled, I could feel a subtle change in the wind. Maybe it was the city, or perhaps it was simply the passage of time. But I started to believe that perhaps hope walks hand in hand with forgiveness, if not to rekindle the past, then perhaps to find serenity for the future. Let me know when you wish to continue with the next part. Continuing from where the story leaves off, let's delve into the complexities of this emotional saga. After our initial breakup, Sarah and I decided to remain friends. Although it was challenging, I cherished the connection we had built and hoped that time would heal old wounds. But when Sarah re-entered my life asking for another shot, it was as if the universe had hit a reset button on my heart. We rekindled our romance, overcoming hurdles and skeptics, and after 2 poignant years, I knelt down to ask Sarah to be my forever. However, the honeymoon was short-lived. As the months rolled on, a new face appeared in Sarah's life, a charismatic co-worker named Mike. Little did I know, he would become a pivotal character in our narrative. Sarah confessed needing space to navigate her feelings, leaving me caught in a tempest of uncertainty. While I wanted to champion her quest for clarity, the pain of her indecision was undeniable. In a bid to give her what she sought, I packed my life into suitcases, leaving behind familiar streets filled with our shared memories. I settled in a new city, determined to find peace amidst the chaos. But soon, whispers of Sarah resurfaced. Friends mentioned sporadic sightings of her near my new apartment. Her presence felt like a haunting shadow, a constant reminder of a chapter one had hoped to close. Sarah's parents, lovely people who had once warmly welcomed me into their family fold, reached out with apologies. They called, texted, and even sent handwritten notes, aiming to mend bridges charred by turbulent emotions. Yet, my resolve remained firm. Communication wasn't an option. While I appreciated their genuine intent, reopening dialogue with Sarah seemed like inviting more stormy weather into an already turbulent sea. On late nights, in moments of introspection, I often questioned my decision. Was cutting off communication an act of self-preservation or simply running away from unresolved feelings? At 34, my life was still a learning curve, full of hard lessons and tougher decisions. And though the path forward remained foggy, I knew that personal peace was my compass guiding this journey. This predicament led me to ponder a broader question about boundaries and closure. How do we navigate the delicate dance between holding on and letting go? Love, loss, and growth often present paradoxes, challenging our notions of right and wrong. Sometimes, distancing oneself is the healthiest choice despite the allure of undeniable past affections. And so, as you reflect on this saga, I encourage you to contemplate the balance between heart and mind in your own relationships. If you've enjoyed this tale or found resonance in its themes, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Join us for more stories that delve deep into life's emotional intricacies.